Okay. Cool. So BM. I'm gonna go through this as if you guys are all new. I know some of you probably have a lot more experience, um, but I'm just gonna touch on the basics first. So BM. Uh, so BM is a little bit more complicated than other bosses in that it's a longer fight and it's a once a month fight. Uh, and of course, it's a pretty difficult fight as well. So when you're preparing for BM, I'm gonna start with that. So for preparations for BM, obviously you need to get your 50 sparks and your key right from the shadow from Vihila and build your key. So that's always first. Generally, for BM groups, what you want to do is do what they call VODs. So that's a video on demand. So VODs are basically, if you see here, we record our runs from the very beginning. So this is like Jason's recording. So he's recording his run right now. And the reason you want to do this is because the fight tends to be really long. So like you can see here, our clear run is 44 minutes. Most runs are like 30 to 35 minutes, somewhere around there. And during that time, there's like no way you're gonna remember how you died to what and what you need to improve and all that. So this VOD is useful to look back and see what you did and what you can do better. And another reason we do VODs is because you can only enter BM once a day and there's no practice mode, right? So it's very costly to do a BM practice. It costs 50 sparks. It's cheaper now, I guess, because sparks are going down. And they're gonna have the practice mode soon, but currently it's still very expensive to run BM. So you use these VODs to look back at what you did and make adjustments accordingly, so that you don't have to keep running practices over and over. Hopefully, so that's a VOD. I can't really show you this, but most of us either use like OBS or NVIDIA's GeForce recording software. So either of those work, but it doesn't really matter what recording software you use as long as you try to record your runs and look back on it. Then that's what really matters. If you don't VOD review, it's pretty difficult to improve because you a lot of times it's really hard to tell how you died or what you got killed by or what you lost a life to. So that's VOD reviewing. Um, so yeah, that's general BM preparations. There's other stuff before the run you need to do once you're more advanced, like what buffs you need to bring in. Like obviously Door, but like, are you gonna take Wild Hunter buff or Kana Domain and stuff like that? That takes a bit more organization, but we won't get to that yet. Okay, so now I'm gonna go over uh, the mechanics for general BM that apply to P1. So that's the curse mechanic. So in BM, you get 12 lives. I don't know if it shows here. Yeah, here we go. So you get this symbol thing here, kind of like the Moonlight in Will, and it shows you your 12 lives. Honestly, you can just kind of ignore this. um, an easier thing to do is just have the life count of your whole party. Just put it somewhere you can see, and you can see how many lives everyone has, including yourself. But this thing is like your personal life count if you want to use it. So there are 12 death counts, so you get 12 lives. So it seems like a lot, but you have to remember this fight is technically an hour long, and there's other ways to die than dying. So you'll see what I mean in a second. So this is actually not a lot of lives. Okay, so you have 12 lives in this fight. So how do you lose lives? So obviously when you die, you lose a life. But there's also something called a curse death. So in BM, in all four phases, there are two types of curses. So when you get hit by attack, you either take a white curse, which is this left one here. Wait, can you see my mouse?
Yeah,
Okay,
we
cool.
can.
So you either take a white curse, which is the left one, or a black curse, which is the right one. So each attack has a specific curse it's associated with. So all white curse attacks will always inflict white curse, and all black black attacks will inflict black curse. So if you get hit by them, you'll get inflicted for the curse with the curse for 6 seconds. So the white curse, what it does is it reduces your final damage by 10%. And I think you slowly, you gain, I guess you gain HP or MP. It's not really noticeable, but I guess you do. But also, some explosions will appear and hit you as you're walking around. So if you stand still, you get hit by these like small explosions, but they're pretty negligible. So that's white curse. So black curse increases your final damage, so you do more damage if you have a black curse, but you also take more damage. So if you get hit by anything, it'll do a 15% bonus damage to you. But most importantly, if you have black curse, you cannot heal. So this is super important in the entire fight of BM. If you have a black curse, you will not be able to use your potion. So how do you lose a life with these curses? If you get both white and black at the same time, then your bar explodes and you'll get skill locked and lose a life. So this is called a curse death, and you absolutely do not want this to happen, because when this happens, not only are you skill locked, but most of the time you took damage, like from these 2 attacks. So damage, skill lock, you lose a life, and then you can die again immediately after, like a regular death. So it's very easy to lose 2 lives from getting both of these curses together. So try your best to avoid the other's attacks if you have one of these curses. So I'll explain the different attacks in a second. But keep this in mind, and this applies for the entire BM fight. Okay, so P1, I think he goes over the black attacks here. Okay, so P1, there's 2 knights. One's called Ionian Rise, which is the white knight, and the other's Tenadian Rune, which is the black knight. Let's see. Here we go. Tenadian Rune's the black knight. There we go. And then the other attacks that inflict curses. So all their attacks, the knight's attacks, will inflict their color curse. So Tenadian Rune will inflict black curse. Aeonian Rise will inflict white curse. And then the other attack that inflicts a curse is black chain. So these chains will spawn. I think he's going to show it here. So these are like lucid lasers. They'll have a little marking before, like this, and then after like 1 to 2 seconds, it'll basically stab that location, and you'll take a black curse if you get hit by this. And they do 15%, but you have to remember, if you got hit by one of them, you'll have a black curse, so you'll take like 20% or something. It's a lot higher. So he spawns them in waves. So 3 to 6. So you get 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they can sometimes stack. So you just dodge them by typically by walking, or like in a straight line, kind of like lucid laser. You can do like up jumps and stuff like that. So that's chains. I'll go over the knights in a second. So chains apply black curse. Okay, so this one is called barbs. So this one is a white curse attack, map attack. So these barbs will fall from either the right to the left in this pattern, or they'll go left to right in the same pattern. So basically all you do is you just try to walk under it, and as soon as this one explodes, you try to move to the right in this case. So you can just walk under this. You can teleport once it explodes. Some people like to flash jump through it. I personally like to do that. Or any kind of dash works too. But if you touch one of these, you will get a white curse. And remember, if you have a black curse and you touch this, then you lose a life. Yeah, so here if you get hit by a black chain and you touch this, you lose a life. The other thing to note is these barbs, they go across the entire map. so they won't stop until they reach the other side, and they can go. They can start before the other one finishes. So it's possible that you. It's very rare, but it's possible that you get a barb going this way, right to left, and then another barb starting to go left to right on the left side or something. So just be careful. Try to watch above you, and then if you see the wave, call barb and then the direction, like barb right left or left right. If you call the direction, most people will know what you mean. So that's barbs. Okay, so I think this is the last map attack. Let me check. Oh, walls. Okay, so lightning. So there will be a message every like 60 seconds, and it'll say crimson lightning, blah blah blah, restricts movement. So these lightning walls will spawn, and you're not supposed to touch them because they deal 99%. So typically, if you touch them, if you're not full life, you're gonna die, of course. But you have to remember that if you have a black curse, even if you're full life, because it's 99 and it adds the extra 15%, you're gonna die instantly. So try your hardest not to touch these. You can teleport through them or dark sight through them if you have dark sight. They last for like 15 seconds, yeah. And keep in mind that when you're trapped between these lightnings, the other attacks will still go on. So the knights will still attack you, the barbs will still fall, and the chains will still strike at you. So you're limited in your movement, but you still have to dodge those. So typically you probably want to make use of up jumps and stuff like that when you're stuck in this. Did they cover walls? They didn't cover walls. Okay. I don't know why they didn't cover walls. Okay. That's so weird. Oh, here we go, Shrieking Wall. Okay, so this is the last map attack. So there'll be a message, but most of the time, like, you're too busy to see it. So at the edges of the map, it's hard to see here, but there's like this little bubbling floor area. And so every 40 seconds, a wall will spawn and explode up here like this. So if you get hit by this, you instantly die. If you have door, you lose that. If you have BOD, I think it goes through BOD and you lose door. So this is like an instant death. Basically, just avoid the bubbling floor. And they're always starting from the outside and work their way in. So after like 10 minutes, they'll be as close as possible. I think there's a cap to how close they get. But by that time, like, you're probably gonna die because you're trapped between a really tiny area. So yeah, as the fight goes on, the map gets smaller and smaller. But it starts out really, really big. Oh, okay, so it's 10 times, yeah. So those are the map attacks. Okay, so for the actual knights, so there are two knights, right? You have to take down. They share an HP bar, so it doesn't matter which one you attack. Eventually, if you attack either one of them, they will both die together. So yeah, attacks from the knights. So they have 3 attacks each, like three different kinds of attacks, and each one will apply the curse. I'll go over this in a second. Okay, so the guides typically say to avoid the white knight, and the reason for this is because chains are kind of hard to dodge, especially when you're like trying to dodge other things. Chains just kind of hit you because you can't focus on them. So if you get hit by a chain and then you get hit by the white knight, then you're gonna lose a life. So try to stay away from the white knight. I'll go over that in strategy later on. Okay, so here are the attacks. So the first attack is rush. We call this rush. So he charges towards, and both knights do this. So he charges towards a player, and it's like almost your full screen, the distance. I'll show it an example later. but that's the first attack. So if you get hit by that attack, you will get whatever curse that color is. That color knight is. The other one is dive. I call it slam personally. But basically what he does is he teleports above. So he'll disappear like this. And then you'll see him spawn above you. And then he'll slam the ground. And it's 100% damage. So you cannot be under this or you'll die. And the final attack is the swing. So this, we just call it push, I guess, because it pushes you. It's a super knockback. It only does 15%, so it doesn't actually hurt, but a lot of times it pushes you into other things and it's kind of dangerous. So just watch out for that. And it does apply the curse. So both knights will do those 3 attacks. And those are their only 3 attacks. Yeah, so they have the exact same attacks. So the thing to note is push and rush have very specific ranges. So this is push. So you have to be standing right, probably right where his chain starts. That first chain. I think that's like rush range, somewhere around there. So if you're not standing within that range of his body, he's not gonna do the swing. He's not gonna push you. Instead, he's gonna do a rush or a teleport. So, so he will do this. He'll draw his sword parallel. Parallel means it's a rush. So when this happens, he's basically going to reposition the rush distance. So it's important to learn the rush distance. I'll go over that in a second later. But yeah, so when he goes parallel, that means he's going to relocate. And then for dive, some things to know for this attack is he will always spawn in one of 3 locations. The first location is his current location. So right here. So when they disappear like this, there's 3 places they can appear. The first one is the exact same spot. He'll just go right above himself. The second location is right above his partner. So if black disappears, he can teleport right above white. That's the second location. And the third location is their original spawn point. So when they spawn in, they can rush that. Or sorry, they can dive or slam that specific location. So black can only dive the black spawn, and white can only dive the white spawn. Or they can teleport to each other. So that's important to remember for positioning. That's slam, win over walls. So that covers the attacks. So you have to dodge map attacks and the statues. So now I'll go over the roles. So let me swap to this. Okay, so for roles, so 99% of teams, what they do in BM is they will bind and burst immediately upon entry, and most of them just phase immediately. But to do this, you have to have a binder, right? So it depends on your class and your party composition. But a binder's job is basically to get the statues to stack on top of each other, so like this. And as soon as this happens, you need to cast your AoE bind. So it has to be an AoE bind, not like Urda Nova. And you AoE bind them together, and then everyone comes in and does their burst. So I'll go over that strategy in a bit, but that's basically what a binder does. So a binder, they need to have, 1, first of all, an AoE bind. 2, they should have protection against at least 1 or 2 curses. Because when you first spawn in, there's the threat of white giving you a white curse and black giving you a black curse, and you'll die and lose a life instantly, right? Or you lose your curse death life instantly. So typically, it's better to have someone who has protection against at least 1 curse. Oh, I forgot to go over cleansing. So for curses, what you can do to avoid getting a curse death is if you have one curse and you feel like you're about to get the second curse, you can use a cleanse. So that would be Hero's Will, Erda Will, or Cleansing Ring. So one of those three. If you use one of those, you're protected for like 5 seconds or whatever, and you can't get the other curse, and so you will not get a curse death. So that's actually super useful for not just P1, but any of the P2 or P3. You need to use Hero's Will and Urda's Will to protect yourself so that you don't get a curse death. And you'll get used to doing that later on, but if you don't have it bound already, start binding those two skills. So yeah, the binder needs to protect themselves, so they can burn a Urda's Will or something like that to protect themselves too. Um, okay.
Question: can I enter with an iframe, for example?
Yes, you can. So another good option is to have a hero class use Freud's Wisdom or and stack 6 as soon as you enter. Stan, you probably know better for that, how exactly that works, but I think you enter on like as soon as stack 5 is hit or something like that. And
That's
then
right.
okay. Yeah. So, yeah, hero classes are really good at doing the initial burst strategy because they can draw aggro and not worry about getting any curse deaths because they're iframed for 30 seconds.
Sorry, I was muted. But yeah, the cutscene's about 10 seconds, I think. So you want to time it so that cooldown comes off right when you enter. So just change to that timing.
Yeah, but keep in mind that the binder has to be an AoE binder, so I think only like Lumi, maybe Aran.
All of them that have binds, right?
Yeah, I don't know which ones have
Shade
bind.
is Shade, Aaron, Lumi.
Oh yeah, Shade, of course, Shade. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, those three are probably your best bet if you're going to use hero class to bind. Another good option is any class has an iframe and lucid earrings. So I don't know how long your iframe is, Ryan, but you could also be a binder if you wanted. You would probably, if it's a shorter iframe, you would probably have to iframe the white, dash.
It's only like 3 or 4 seconds.
Yeah. So I'd assume you probably get hit by black, rush or something like that, or swipe. And then you'd have to iframe when white rushes, and then you can lucid once they're stacked, like this. Right. Yeah. Oops. Yeah. So once they're stacked, you do lucid, and then if you have another AoE binder who doesn't have protection, then they can just bind right after your lucids.
Nightwalker has AoE bind too.
Oh, okay, nice. Oh, the Stitch is AoE?
Yep.
Okay, yeah.
You hit more enemies that last longer too. So.
Okay, but I thought you had to charge that one.
It's pretty fast.
Okay.
Now, it used to be slow, but it got buffed.
Okay. Lucids is good because it's like instant. So yeah, if you do need extra time for your AoE bind, you can do the Lucids first too. So that's the binder. It's a little bit difficult of a job because you have to worry about what each statue does at the very beginning. Let me see if... So here you can see Jason's trying to bait white over to black. So they always start at 1 rush distance. So if white were to rush right now, he would land right where black is. But black, in this case, he teleported away. So it kind of ruined the bind, I guess. So you have to juggle the knights until they stack. So here... So luckily white teleported on top of himself, and then black rushed to white's location, so they stacked. So when you're a binder, you have to take these into account. I'll go over it in a bit, but you have to take these into account, like their attacks. So yeah, I'll go over that strategy in a bit. So other people's jobs are the people who are bursting, right? So everyone who bursts, they all go to the right and wait until the knights are bound together, and then they jump in and do their burst. It's a pretty easy, straightforward job. And then once you're done with your burst, you just try to avoid white, pretty much. Okay. Let's see the next job. Okay, kiter. So, typically you want a kiter in P1 in the scenario where you don't instantly burst them down. I'm gonna go to mine here. So, a kiter, what they would want to do is they would want to draw white to the left, or just basically away from the party. So, because white spawns on the left, you typically want to draw them left, but sometimes they swap. But let's just say white goes to the left, black goes to the right. So the kiter's job is to keep white on the left side while everyone can DPS black on the right side. So I'll go over that strategy later. But a kiter typically wants to be someone who either has really high mobility or can teleport. So to juggle white, you basically need to get him to constantly rush back and forth. And you need a lot of mobility in order to pull that off without getting cursed. So that's the kiter's job. You don't have to have a kiter, but it just makes it like way easier. And I'll explain why you don't need one later. Yeah, let me see if I can show what juggling looks like. No, this one's not good. Okay. Okay, so the final role is I put an untouchable debuffer as a role because it's kind of it can make your P1 a lot easier if you're not insta bursting. So what a showdowner does, untouchable debuffer. So you have to have either a Night Lord, a Mercedes, or I think like a fire poison mage, and they can apply the untouchable debuff. So if you have the untouchable debuff, which is like for me it's like this scroll for the Night Lord. If they're untouchable, their rush will not hit you at all. So no curse and no damage. And that makes juggling way easier, right? So black right here is about to rush me. He would have hit me, but I didn't get hit because he's showed down. And Mercedes can do this too, and Fire Poison can also. The thing is, for FP and Mercedes, I think you have to apply it pretty often. So typically they'll probably need to be the kiter. Otherwise, if you have a Night Lord, you can just have them show down every like minute. So that's another role for P1.
Mike was asking a question.
Oh.
Does Haku Foxfire block a curse?
Yes. Yeah. So Kanas are probably the best binder in the game. Obviously because they have the longer bind, but they also have the protection, the Foxfire protection. So it will block the curse from the like if you're like focusing on black and then white rushes you, it will block that curse. So yeah, Foxfire is OP. So yeah, Mike, you're probably, if you were to join a party, you would probably be the binder. Any other questions so far? I forgot to stop for questions. Oh, Nari asked, why do you need iframe to bind? You don't need it. It's just helpful at the very beginning because, like I said, here. So right here, let's say, I think white actually does rush here. Okay, so, dang it. So imagine you are Stan, who's Merswagdes, right here. If you didn't have an iframe right here, if they both rushed each other, or you can see white rushing here, if they both rush you, you would get both curses and you'd lose a life instantly. So that's why you have the iframe, or the Foxfire in Mike's case. I don't see any other questions. Did you guys... No one asked anything in Alliance, right? Okay, yeah, I don't think so. Okay, so those are the roles. Now I'm going to talk about the strategy and those roles, what they do. So the burst strategy, especially when you first enter, let me go over that. But we pretty much talked about it. So when you first enter, everyone you'll see goes to the right. It's important that you do not attack. Some people even turn off familiars just to be safe. I don't think you need to do that, but if you want to be safe, you can do that. But you can see everyone's flash jumping to the right. Try to turn off anything that auto attacks too. So I think JJ turns off his missiles and stuff. Anything that auto attacks, because you don't want the aggro of black specifically to go towards you guys and have him rush that way, right? So we want black to stay here, and we want white to rush to black so that the binder can bind both of them. So it's kind of hard because black will maybe sometimes teleport away. So basically, to reduce the chances of him going away, you want to stand directly within his push range so that he tries to push you. And then if you're a mage, you can just teleport behind the push, or you can just flash jump behind him or something. I don't know if flash jump's fast enough, but basically you want to try to keep him here. And you also come here because this is within white's rush range. So rush range is pretty big. It's like a full screen. So if you see white, then he can rush you if you hit him. So the binder's job is to draw aggro from both the white and the black. And then they would want to stand on top of black to try to bait his push and dodge it, while white rushes to the black. That way black doesn't move and white comes to black, and then you can bind. If that doesn't happen, then you have to try to juggle them until they stack somewhere. It doesn't have to be here, but anywhere. So yeah, just keep in mind, if you're the binder, if you want to try to keep them in the same spot, then you need to stand directly under them, and that increases the chance to 50%, right? They can either teleport, or they can rush, or sorry, they can either teleport or they can... Wait, no, I take that back. They have more chance of swiping at you than they have rushing, right? Because rush is a relocation, and so is teleport. But if they swipe, then they don't relocate. Whereas if you're trying to draw them to a new location, then you want to rush, right? So you want to be in rush distance for that. So everyone else, you don't want to go too far, because if you're going too far, it takes like 2 flash jumps or something to reach wherever they're bound. But you want to jump far enough that you're not in rush range. So if you see them, it's probably in rush range, and you don't want to be that close. So this is a good distance right here, where Robbie is, right here. At this point, you should have already casted your longer burst buffs, so like 60s, like Maple Goddess Warrior or whatever. You can have casted that before entering. But when you're here, you want to probably do your 30-second buffs, and then when it's time, then you want to cast your like 10-second buffs as you're jumping in. So, and then Roar would be like right on top of them. So that's for the burst people.
I think Ryan was asking, do you want to get the black curse for burst during bind?
Oh no, you don't have to. Like that's unnecessary. Yeah. In fact, you probably don't want to, because if you're trying to get the curse, you're probably gonna relocate black, and you don't want him to run away from white, right? So the most important part is getting the bind, and getting them together for the bind, so that all attacks will be focused.
I have a quick question.
Yep.
Would you say there's like a time limit on, like, you know, if it's like taking too long to get them stacked, like would you say like just bail on getting them stacked just like bind white, and like just so that everyone doesn't lose their burst?
Yeah, I would say maybe like 10 seconds, I want to say, because 20 seconds, let's say like a 30-second burst, you don't want to lose more than like 10 seconds of that, especially. So you do want to give the binder a little bit of time, but anything more than, I would say, like 5 to 10 seconds.
The other thing I've seen, especially like if you have a Kana and you're struggling to bind, if you if you foot bind one of them, and then the other one will jump on top, you can rebind it with your second bind, and the timing should line up about the same.
Oh yeah, that's true. And
You can do that too if you're also struggling.
Yeah, that doesn't apply just to Kana too. Like you can technically bind both knights separately. It's just that they will be free at different times if you're not a Kana, right? Because Kana has 15 and 10 second.
Yeah.
But if you have like two different classes that each have a 10-second bind, then it's better that you stop one of, especially white. You want to stop white because you don't want white to hit you. So yeah.
I just had a dumb thought. If all 6 people brought Erdenova and spammed it on entry, is that viable?
Yes, but they won't be stacked, right?
Oh yeah, you can't reach both.
Yeah, so you'd want the the stacking mechanism is still the same. You want them to be together because that way your bursts, especially AoE attacks, like not everyone has a single target attack. But a lot of people have AoE attacks, and it's better if you stack them because the damage is basically doubled.
They also might immediately jump.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, I mean, Erdenova should not go off if they jump, so it should be okay. But you don't want to bind the same knight also, because I think they will resist that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like 5 to 10 seconds, just use your bind on white. Black should eventually come to white, and then you can bind black. And you can do that too, as an emergency. Trying to think if there's anything else. Entry positioning, arrow management, buff timing. Okay, yeah, so buff timing, I think I already went over it, but 60-second buffs you do before entering, 30-second buffs you do around here, and then shorter buffs you do as you're jumping in to attack. Okay, so now I'll go over offburst. That's gonna be hard to find a video. I'll just use mine. So offburst, what you want to do is have the kiter. So the kiter will take white, kind of like this actually. So in this case, I'm kiting white. He's showdown, so if you don't have showdown, you'd have to be really careful. Either I would suggest a mage to do this because you can teleport behind the rush, or you can just take the rush and dodge chains. Mages are really good at dodging chains because you just teleport. But yeah, you basically bring white away from black so that your party can focus down black without drawing white's aggro. And that's like free DPS basically, right? Because black won't give you a white curse, and so you can take chains as much as you want. You just have to worry about barbs, that's all. But yeah, the kiter has to worry about drawing white's attack, mostly rushing. I think if you're a mage, you can also just stand on him and teleport away from swipe, from the push. That works too. But basically, you need to be in voice call too to call out if he teleports away. So that's the other thing. So white can teleport back to black, remember? Because teleports and slamming, that's a thing. So the kiter will typically bring him to one side and then just keep him there. If you don't want to just stay kiting, like you're just too worried about getting a curse death, you can actually leave white in the corner. And if you're really fast, you won't be in his rush range by the time he's ready for his next attack. So if I like went super fast right here, he wouldn't. So right here, he doesn't know where I am, and I'm not on his screen, so he can't rush me right now. So he'll be stuck there. He can teleport out of it, but he can't rush or anything. So you have to watch your head when you do this. But that's one option if you have a really high mobility class. You can just leave white stuck in a corner. So yeah, I think I actually do that here, and I try to attack black. So yeah, your party would just be attacking black, and just the only thing they would have to worry about is barbs and their HP. Alright. So if you're doing that strategy, that's probably assuming that you didn't burst down in one burst on entry. So what you need to do is prepare for the second burst. So while you're doing all your DPS on black, It's just kind of bonus DPS. It's not burst DPS. You have to watch your head, right? Because white might slam at any moment. You don't know. So you have to watch out for that. And then once you're ready for your burst, everyone needs to get their their long bus ready first. And the kiter needs to start doing the same thing as the entry, where they get aggro from both. So people need to stop attacking and try to stay away from both knights. And then you basically just stack them. I think I do it here. Let me see. Okay, yeah, so you want something like this. So right now they're both stacked. When they're stacked like this, for the binder, what you want to do is try to get them to constantly rush you. Oh, so I did a bad job here. I think I did it better earlier. Okay, so this is what you don't want. You don't want them rushing at the same time across each other, right? If you're the binder. So same as before, you want to probably stack right within push range of one of them and let the other. So he'll try to push you, like white will try to push in this case, and black will try to rush, and then at that point they'll stack again. So yeah, it takes a little bit of practice as a binder. But that's your goal when you're on your second bind. You need to get them to stack. And then, okay, so here, I forced black to push me, and white did a rush because I was still in white's rush range. So now they're going to be stacked. So at this point, this is good. As a binder, this is good. So I would do long distance attack here, so that I force both of them to try to rush me. And that way, they just keep rushing. So here, rush, rush. And then in this case, as soon as white's like kind of finishing his rush, you could do your bind here. But if you need to buy some time, like people are trying to do their buffs or something, you can just keep kiting them like this and forcing them to do their rush. Again, you need to you probably need some kind of status resistance or protection so that you don't get the curse, or need showdown. In this case, I'm using showdown. But yeah, that's one option as a as a binder. And this is basically holding them together until your team is ready for you to bind. You don't have to wait, like you can just bind and tell your team, oh, they're bound. But it just gives your team more time if you're able to do this. And then yeah, there's the risk of teleporting or slamming when you do that, so you have to keep that in mind too. It might be easier just to bind as soon as they're together. Alternatively, if you think you can get them to bind just like by having them crisscross and stuff, then you can just tell your team to start buffing up, and eventually you'll bind them. But other than that, it's pretty much the same as bind number 1. Just bind and then everyone come in and burst, right? So same as this. You just might have to do it at a new location is all. I think other than that, that should be it. Yeah, I think that covers P1. The most dangerous times are probably during lightning. You have to watch out for other attacks during lightning. It's like really annoying. If you don't, especially if you don't have a teleport or a dark sight, it can get really rough during lightning. Yeah, like this. Like I'm here, I'm like taking chains. There's a barb coming, and the knights aren't even on my screen. This is already pretty tough. So yeah, if you can, if you want, you can just leave the knights stuck in a corner, like both of them. And that works too. If you don't want to attack during offburst, you can just do that. So that's an option. But if you want to get out more DPS, you want to try to isolate black. I call that ISOing black. If black is ISO, then you can attack. If white comes, then you need to pull away until they isolate again. Anyone have any questions? Cool. I don't think so. So yeah, we can do a practice run if you guys want, or whoever wants to go. We can do a practice run. I'm gonna stop streaming this. Speaking of lines, if you want to go on a run, I'll invite you guys.